and he's going, Paul, we've got to adjust. We've got to do this, whatever his ideas were. And clearly they were at odds over it. It was agree to disagree situation where they continued to play the way the coach had wanted them to play, and now suddenly they're down 3-1 against a very good Penguins team. And it was the frustration of that in the moment for Alfredsson that came out when he's asked about, you think you can beat this team 3 times in a row? And he goes, probably not. Anyway, it could be something completely different.
It reminds me of when Matthews said the Passengers, right?
Well, there's something a little more recent. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good... I'm glad you remind me of that. It's just in the moment. Yeah, these guys, they care, man. They absolutely care. They absolutely care. A couple things. Panthers. Bennett. That's going to be a big one.
Whew. Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
Yes.
To boot.
Yes.
Very well deserving.
Yeah, very well. I think this is coming out today, so I'll say it. I had Marchand, Bennett, Bobrovsky. Those were my 3.
So you had Marchand 1 in the end.
I did. It was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah.
Really difficult choice. I think that, I got an interesting call. I started looking like it was really hard. I'm not going to deny it. It was really hard. And by the way, the stuff that Bennett said about Marchand, it was just unbelievable timing about how Marchand was lifting the Stanley Cup. As we spoke to Bennett, and I give credit to the Sportsnet editors who edited out the swearing, even though I think it should just stay in. Like, it's winning the Stanley Cup. Let the swearing stay in there.
That's right.
But I had a coach who called me, and he said, because he heard me talking about it in the last pod with you, and this really stuck with me. And he said, here's why my vote would be Marchand, if and if you still are stuck. And I said, okay. And he said, you got to think about this guy. He's the captain of the Boston Bruins. He's trying to work out a way to stay with the Bruins, and he gets traded at the last second. And he's traded to Florida, one of your biggest rivals, even though he wanted to go there. And he's not with his family. As he said, his family doesn't go with him, right? Mm-hmm. And he's used to being the captain and a big voice. And they basically tell him, you're going to be on our third line. And he doesn't play the rest of the regular season. And, you're going to be on the third line. And we need you to accept that. You're going from the captain of the Bruins, the first line, to the third line here. And he does it without missing a beat. And it just goes to that culture they have, the servant leadership kind of thing that Viola talked about earlier. But he said that, this is a coach who's been around a while, and he's seen a lot of trade deadline acquisitions, and very few of them go that smoothly. And he said if he was casting a vote, he would add to Marchand because of that. And that wasn't the reason I did it. I think Marchand, he looked at some of the biggest overtime goals, Toronto, this Stanley Cup final. Ultimately, that's why I did it. But I certainly don't have a problem with Bennett winning it. He was number 2 on my ballot. But, to hear Bennett talk about Marchand, it was incredible. A lot of those interviews were great, were excellent. They always are. Aaron Ekblad talking about his brother. I didn't realize that would be the reaction that Ekblad would have. He did mention while we were waiting to talk to him that he was happy his brother couldn't make it for Game 7 last year, so he wasn't there for the celebration. And obviously that was very emotional for him. So many of those interviews were so great. Like Bennett, I think they offered him during the year the Verhaeghe deal, 8 times 7, same bonus structure. Verhaeghe has the structure that obviously didn't get it done. I think the Panthers are going to have to bend a little bit here. It's such a perfect marriage, Kyle. I don't understand how they can't make that work. Like, everybody's going to have to compromise. Marchand, we'll get into that a little bit more on Friday. But I think Marchand's going to have, like I mentioned on the pod earlier in this series, that the word was 3. There was a 3 times 8 out there. I've had people tell me there's going to be offers that are going to be bigger than that. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I could see him staying in Florida. But again, it's one of those situations everyone has to bend. And Ekblad, he played the best hockey of his career, and we'll see. But, you know, they also came in well. Like, I don't know when the last time they even spoke to Ekblad was, but last year around, you know, the draft, they came in lower than he is now, right? So, you know, everybody here is going to have decisions to make. If you want to be a Panther, you have to bend a little bit. But in some of these cases, Bennett and Ekblad, they're going to have to bend a bit. So we'll see where this all goes. I mean, the one thing that helps them is that players now want to play there, and good players now want to play there. But, you know, remember Reinhart, they got him done like right before the deadline where he could sign for 8 years. It came right down to the wire.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
You know, we'll see what happens here.
I think they're on stage at their parade when they signed the contract.
Yes, it's
because everything was so truncated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that Zito, who's always known to have his quick wit about him, I guess was asked on the ice afterwards about how badly do you want Brad Marchand back next season, and he responds, "I bought a Dairy Queen."
That's pretty funny. That's really funny.
Right.
You know, by the way, Matthew Tkachuk in his interview with Darren Pang,
yes,
he confirmed what a lot of us believed, that he had torn the adductor right off the bone. The first time he ever admitted it, but that's what the belief was. What he didn't answer, and I'm hoping will come clear in the next few days, I think he did it in the fight against Brandon Hagel at the Four Nations. That has been the rumor too. So hopefully we'll find out if that's true. Like initially with Gene, he wasn't biting, but his defenses were worn down and he admitted it. You know, as we talked about, he'd gone to Germany to see the same doctor Austin Matthews had seen. But that was what it was rumored to be. And as Tkachuk said, it was really touch and go about whether or not he was going to be able to do it. And he credited his fiance, and credit to him too. He got better. Like when Reinhart got hurt against Carolina, you know, I think the feeling was that it was going to bother him, that he was going to miss some time, but he would be better in June. And that was exactly the way it played out. He missed, a game? But you could tell he wasn't himself. But by the time mid-June rolled around, he was pretty good. Really good.
Boy, yeah, he was excellent as the series wore on. And
like, there were some people
4
who were
goals.
saying to me, do you think, like, there was someone who texted me, like, right before the game, like, do you think Reinhart really deserved to be one of the 6 for Team Canada? I texted him back after the 3rd goal, and I said, are you still concerned about this? He goes, not really.
Yes, that's right. The timing was impeccable. I don't for a second think that he lays any attention to the reaction to things like that, but it was the perfect clapback for Sam Reinhart with 4 goals in the clinching game. And if not for Vasily Podkolzin, he would have back-to-back years with the Stanley Cup clinching goal. And we should also point out, too, I mean, Tkachuk, of course, has a long-standing relationship with Darren Pang, the St. Louis connection, so fitting that if he was going to tell somebody what was going on with his injury, it was Panger.
Yes. They have a long history, St. Louis days.
So they led for over 255 minutes of the Stanley Cup final. That is an NHL record, eclipsing the 87 Edmonton Oilers, Elliotte. It's like the final horn hadn't even gone yet, and the discourse had already started online about, I don't care that they've won 2 in a row and been to 3 finals. That is not a dynasty.